Hey, what's up, guys? Right now we're going to Van Gogh's childhood home in Zundert, Netherlands. Actually, his childhood house was already demolished years ago, so this is like a small museum dedicated to him. At the same time, we can explore the place where he grew up, or mostly spent his childhood life.
Vincent van Gogh was a post-impressionist painter whose work, notable for its beauty, emotion, and color, highly influenced 20th century art. It all started in his family home in Gogh Zundert in the Netherlands. Van Gogh was born on March 30, 1853. His father, Theodorus van Gogh, was a country minister, and his mother, Anna Cornelia Carventus, was a moody artist whose love of nature, drawing, and watercolors was transferred to her son. Van Gogh was born exactly 1 year after his parents' first son, also named Vincent, was stillborn. At a young age, with his name and birthday already etched on his dead brother's headstone, Van Gogh was melancholy. He was the eldest of 6 living children. He had 2 younger brothers, Theo, who worked as an art dealer and supported his older brother's art, and Cor, and 3 younger sisters, Anna, Elizabeth, and Wilhelmine. Theo van Gogh would later play an important role in his older brother's life as a confidant, supporter, and art dealer. At age 15, Van Gogh's family was struggling financially, and he was forced to leave school and go to work. He got a job at his uncle's Cornelis art dealership, Goupil & C., a firm of art dealers in The Hague. By this time, Van Gogh was fluent in several languages. In June of 1873, he was transferred to the Goupil Gallery in London. There, he fell in love with English culture and visited art galleries. He also fell in love with his landlady's daughter, Eugenie Lawyer. When she rejected his marriage proposal, Van Gogh suffered a breakdown. He threw away all his books except for the Bible and devoted his life to God. He became angry with people at work, telling customers not to buy, and was eventually fired. Van Gogh then taught in a Methodist boys' school and also preached to the congregation. Although raised in a religious family, it wasn't until this time that he seriously began to consider devoting his life to the church. Hoping to become a minister, he prepared to take the entrance exam to the School of Theology in Amsterdam. After a year of studying, he refused to take the Latin exams, calling Latin a dead language of poor people, and was subsequently denied entrance. The same thing happened in the Church of Belgium. In the winter of 1878, he was volunteered to move to an impoverished coal mine in the south of Belgium, a place where preachers were usually sent as punishment. He preached and ministered to the sick, and also drew pictures of the miners and their families, who called him Christ of the Coal Mines. The evangelical committees were not as pleased. They disagreed with Van Gogh's lifestyle, which had begun to take a tone of martyrdom. They refused to renew his contract, and he was forced to find another occupation. In the fall of 1880, Van Gogh decided to move to Brussels to become an artist. Though he had no formal training, his brother Theo offered to support him financially. He began taking lessons on his own and studying books. Van Gogh's love life was nothing short of disastrous. He was attracted to women in trouble, thinking he could help them. When he fell in love with his recently widowed cousin Kate, she was repulsed and fled to her home in Amsterdam. Then Van Gogh moved to The Hague and fell in love with Klasina Maria Hurnik, an alcoholic prostitute. She became his companion, mistress, and model. When Hurnik went back to prostitution, Van Gogh became utterly depressed. In 1882, his family threatened to cut him off his money unless he left Hurnik and The Hague. Van Gogh left in mid-September of that year to travel to Drenthe, a somewhat desolate district in the Netherlands. For the next 6 weeks, he lived a nomadic life, moving throughout the region while drawing and painting the landscape and its people. Van Gogh's art helped him stay emotionally balanced. In 1885, he began to work on what is considered to be his first masterpiece, The Potato Eaters. Theo, who by this time living in Paris, believed the painting would not be well received in the French capital, where Impressionism had become the trend. Nevertheless, Van Gogh decided to move to Paris and showed up at Theo's house uninvited. In March 1886, Theo welcomed his brother into his small apartment. In the city, Van Gogh first saw Impressionist art and was inspired by the color and light. He began studying with Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec, Camille Pissarro, and others. To save money, he and his friends posed for each other instead of hiring models. He was passionate, and he argued with other painters about their works, alienating those who became tired of his bickering. Van Gogh was also influenced by Japanese art and began studying Eastern philosophy to enhance his art and life. In February 1888, he boarded a train to the south of France. He moved into the now famous Yellow House and spent his money on paint rather than food. Van Gogh painted 2 series of sunflowers while in Arles, 4 between August and September 1888 and 1 in January 1889. In December of 1888, Van Gogh was living on coffee, bread, and absinthe, and found himself feeling sick and strange. Before long, it became apparent that in addition to suffering from physical illness, his psychological health was declining. Around this time, he is known to have sipped on turpentine and eaten paint. His brother Theo was worried, and he offered Paul Gauguin money to watch over his brother. Within a month, Van Gogh and Gauguin were arguing constantly. And one night, the latter walked out. Van Gogh followed him, and when Gauguin turned around, he saw Van Gogh holding a razor in his hand. Hours later, he went to the local brothel and paid for a prostitute named Rachel. With blood pouring from his hand, he offered her his ear, asking her to keep this object carefully. The police found Van Gogh in his room the next morning and admitted him in the Hotel Dieu hospital. Theo arrived on Christmas Day to see him, who was weak from blood loss and having violent seizures. The doctors assured Theo that his brother would live and will be taken good care of. And on January 7, 1889, Van Gogh was released from the hospital. He remained, however, alone and depressed. For hope, he turned to painting and nature. He could not find peace and was hospitalized again. He would paint at the Yellow House during the day and return to the hospital at night. Van Gogh then decided to move to Saint Paul de Moules Asylum in Saint-Rémy-de-Provence. after the people of Arles signed a petition saying that he was dangerous. On May 8, 1889, he began painting in the hospital gardens. And on November the same year, he was invited to exhibit his paintings in Brussels. He sent 6 paintings including Irises and Starry Night. On January 31, 1890, Theo and his wife Johanna gave birth to a boy and named him Vincent Willem van Gogh, after his brother. Around this time, Theo sold Van Gogh's The Red Vineyards painting for 400 francs. Also at this time, Dr. Paul Gachet, who lived in Auver, about 20 miles north of Paris, agreed to take Van Gogh as his patient. So Van Gogh moved to Auver and rented a room. On July 27, 1890, Vincent van Gogh went out to paint in the morning carrying a loaded pistol and shot himself in the chest, but the bullet did not kill him. He was found bleeding in his room. It was said that Van Gogh was distraught about his future because in May of that year, his brother Theo had visited and spoke to him about needing to be stricter with his finances. Van Gogh took that to mean that Theo was no longer interested in selling his art. He was taken to a nearby hospital and his doctor sent for Theo, who arrived to find his brother sitting up in bed and smoking a pipe. They spent the next couple of days talking together, and then Van Gogh asked Theo to take him home. On July 29, 1890, Vincent van Gogh died in the arms of his brother Theo. He was only 37 years old. At that time, Theo was also suffering from syphilis and, weakened by his brother's death, died 6 months after Vincent in a Dutch asylum. He was buried in Utrecht. But in 1914, his wife Johanna, who was a dedicated supporter of Van Gogh's works, had Theo's body reburied in Auver Cemetery next to Vincent. She also collected as many of Van Gogh's paintings as she could, but discovered that many had been destroyed or lost, as Van Gogh's own mother had thrown away crates full of his art. Vincent van Gogh completed more than 1,200 works consisting of 860 oil paintings and more than 1,300 watercolors, drawings, and sketches. Several of his paintings now rank among the most expensive in the world. Irises sold for a record $53.9 million, and his portrait of Dr. Gachet sold for $82.5 million. While over the course of 10 years, he created more than 43 self-portraits as both paintings and drawings. On March 17, 1901, 71 of his paintings were displayed at a show in Paris, and his fame grew enormously. His mother lived long enough to see her son hailed as an artistic genius. And in 1973, the Van Gogh Museum opened its doors in Amsterdam to make the works of Vincent van Gogh accessible to the public. The museum houses more than 200 of his paintings, 500 drawings, and 750 written documents including letters to Vincent's brother Theo. Today, Vincent van Gogh is considered one of the greatest artists in human history. So now we are at the site of his childhood home. We will be taking a tour inside the building. A little history behind the house. The original building where Vincent was born was deconstructed in 1903 to make way for a new parsonage. A plaque made by Niels Steenbergen that decorates the facade of this building commemorates his birth. When the building was renovated, a well was discovered. This well provided the Van Gogh family with clean drinking water. The Bottle of Vincent's Water, it's one of its most famous products. It was made by artist Gogh Church in 2012, who searched and collected traces of Van Gogh, and this water bottle is part of his project. There is also a beautiful garden at the back of the buildings. The family had their meals, played games, or read books. This current iteration was based on the memories of his sister Louise Van Gogh, with fruit trees and bushes with raspberries, berries, and apples. This current Vincent van Gogh house was built and was constructed by combining two distinct buildings, the new parsonage and a characteristic parson house. Upon entering, you'll see the large photograph of the unveiling of the plaque in celebration for Van Gogh's centennial birthday. While inside, one of the permanent exhibitions are the Roots of a Master. It focuses on the youth of the artist. It is like a tour audio guide of the young Vincent, with his special relationship with Theo and the concerns of his parents. His birthplace Zundert will come to life through projections. You will recognize his love for nature and an insight in the art trade of his uncles. Vincent van Gogh became an inspiration for many future artists and even got the nickname Father of Modern Art. This is also the subject of the second room with the permanent exhibition. Through a poetic mixture of art and quotes, you will discover the huge impact this master has had on numerous artists, as you can see in the works of art on the wall. There are also recreated collections of the lost paintings of Vincent van Gogh. At the end is a souvenir store where you can buy memorabilia dedicated to the painter and some copies of his works. Lastly, there is also a restaurant where visitors can eat and drink. For more information about Vincent van Gogh and some of the sites we visited, check out the description below for the links. Alright, I hope you enjoyed the history lesson about the life of Vincent van Gogh, a colorful yet tragic one, and the walk along the Vincent van Gogh house. Until next time, don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. Bye!
So guys, if you like our videos, please subscribe to our channel and feel free to comment. Hit the bell!